Shouldn't have had that last drink. And John Whitfield's voice was nice and crisp this morning. This is my gauge of day 2 at our summits. If John comes in sounding gruff and gravelly, then I know everybody had a rough night the night before. He's crisp, he's ready. Obviously you are too. We have a packed day today, so I want to get started right away. Reminder to everyone that we're live streaming, so tell the folks at home to tune in if they like. Also, the videos from yesterday are already up online, so if you go back to the agenda, you'll see the videos and many of the slides from yesterday. Today, we're going to go through a lot of updates on a lot of standard issues. We're going to be talking about automation and the role of automation in the beginning of the morning, but then we're going to talk about acquisition strategies from several different perspectives, and then we're going to wrap the morning talking about deliverability. So we're going to move quickly through a bunch of different topics, but each of which are sort of central and standard for EIS, and talk about some updates for each. We're going to start with Vicky Gee from Amazon. I mentioned at the beginning of the program yesterday that one of the core themes in this summit is the ways in which we keep automation human, the way in which we keep all the tools, technologies, the stacks, and increasingly the AI and the machine learning really aimed at marketing goals. There's no one who can speak better to this than Vicky Gee of Amazon. She's the Senior Product Manager of Global Marketing of Automation at Amazon. They have more data, they have more machinery working this than just about anyone else. She's going to talk about what the company has learned so far, not only from its consumers, but the ways in which it's throwing data at all of this. Please welcome Vicky Gee.
Hello. Guys in the back, can you hear me? Yes. Can I have a clicker? Oh. Neat. All my notes out in Pirate, so I'm not actually sure if I'll be able to. Okay, so the very first thing I'm supposed to say is Avast, 'tis a fine sunrise to be seen, all ye pirates out there. Just kidding, I'm not going to talk like this for the rest of the conference. Since we're live streaming, hi Mom, I'm on stage. Thank you for everything. Thanks for not calling me a lot of times last night. This is my second time at MediaPost Email Insider Summit, and I have to say I'm super impressed with how smooth everything has been, from the 10 horses yesterday to not getting struck by lightning while kayaking. I think we should acknowledge the quiet people in the back running this whole show. So can we give a round of applause to the IS staff? Thank you, guys. This is really a fun conference. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Vicky Gee. I'm a Senior Product Manager at Amazon. I work on all the technologies that help us connect millions of customers with millions of products, services, and programs. Amazon has a very build-it-yourself type of engineering culture. We typically don't buy from outside in the retail business, so I own the full stack, from rendering to delivery and all the steps in between. I figured I should probably let you know a little bit about myself outside of my life at Amazon, since human beings are multifaceted. We have lots of different interests. So when I'm not working at Amazon, I'm moonlighting as an illustrator and wedding calligrapher. If anybody's getting married, hit me up. I like to do wedding calligraphy on Saturdays, Sundays, and every night from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. On the weekends, I'm an Amazon customer. I do my shopping on Amazon. I also do my shopping at competitors like Walmart and Target and the corner store down the street. I have a very full life. I have very little time. I'm not just one profile. I'm many different profiles. And since we're talking about machine learning and the robots coming over to take our jobs, I figure I should say I am also a very complex machine. I can make complex decisions like some machines can, and I have some organic intelligence like some machines don't. I have the intelligence of emotion. I have the intelligence of storytelling. I can feel lots of different feelings. I can feel happiness or sadness or grumpiness. This is Grumpy Cat. I met her in real life. She came to Amazon to do a keynote of her own. They put her on a little pillow and then did a book tour for her. It was really cute. I can do things machines can't. I have gut feeling. I can do checks. I can make sure that the customer experience is one we actually want to create for customers, not one that the machine outputs. So how do do we do that? Well, now comes the most exciting part of the presentation. You get to know that everything is made up today. Everything is a total figment of my imagination. The views expressed in this presentation are mine alone. They don't reflect those of my employer, Amazon.com LLC. Any resemblance to people, persons, or things is coincidental. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not an official spokesperson of Amazon.com, although I am an unofficial tweeter. And I have to say, the Twitter feed for MPEIS is really quiet. No one's tweeting. Everyone's paying attention to me. So give me some of that partial attention. Pull out your phones. Send some tweets to MPEIS. I think right now it's like a Matt Parker Bird and Vicky G show. So if someone, and it's like the only public record I have of working on a Friday. So if you could like take a photo, snap it to my boss, that'd be really great. Okay. Let's actually get started. So today's talk is about machine learning and how we approach it at Amazon. And I think even before we get sucked into all the cool technology and all the new innovations we have, we should first ask ourselves the important question, why do we automate? I think this is a really key question because without setting the right goals, without having customer first metrics, you're going to lose control of your technology. Sometimes at Amazon, I think we're so excited about our engineering culture and all the things we can develop that we are dazzled by what we can do, and maybe we don't spend so much time thinking about what we should do. So it's an important question to ask. Why do we automate? Why do we invest in machine learning? What course are we setting for our customers and ourselves? Are we on the right course? Are we veering into some sort of email oblivion like the spam box or something worse? Are we veering to a world where we lose trust with our customers because we've lost control of our technology? So here's why I'm interested in machine learning at Amazon. By a show of hands, how many of you do not cut your own hair? Okay, most people do not cut their own hair. I also don't cut my own hair. By show of hands, how many of you go to the same stylist over and over again? Yeah? How long have you been going to your stylist for? 4 years. Anybody top 4 years? How long? 15. Anybody top 15? Anybody older than 15? I go to the same stylist. Her name is Debbie. She owns Salon Rumors in Los Angeles, where I grew up. And I've been going to her for 12 years, 13 years. And I live in Seattle, so it's a very expensive haircut. I do it once a year. I fly down, I visit my family after Q4, and I get my haircut. And Debbie is the only person I trust with my hair, mostly because I go to Supercuts in Seattle, and it's really terrible every time. Oops. I hope Supercuts isn't watching, I'm sorry. And it hasn't always been that way, though. I trust Debbie today, but when I first started going to Debbie, I didn't like her at all. The very first time I got my haircut at Debbie's Salon Rumors, she gave me this like K-pop side bang type of deal. She dyed my hair a really red chestnut. I was super mortified, and I hated it. So the next time when I went back to Debbie, I brought some inputs. I brought some magazines and some pictures, and I brought a list of complaints about my previous haircut, and she cut my hair again, and it was better. I was like, this is good, this can work out. Third time, I brought a picture on my phone, and she did it again. She said, same thing as last time, and I was like, same thing as last time. She gave me an output I really liked. And the fourth time, and the fifth time, and the sixth time. And now I walk into Salon Rumors, and Debbie goes, same thing as last time. I go, same thing as last time. And I don't even have to lift a finger. It's the output that I want. I think the core of my relationship with my hairstylist is actually the same as the core of why we as marketers should invest in machine learning. Debbie knows me now. After many years, Debbie can take my inputs and give me an output that I really like. And then when I have slight modifications, like I want highlights or I want a bob, Debbie can tailor her experience to mine and give me a really good customer experience. And machines can do the same. Machines can learn from your feedback and your inputs to tailor an experience for you and even vary it a little bit to help you discover new things. And when we do machine learning right at Amazon, it feels like magic. It feels like Amazon knows you. Says, sneaky dog friend girl ghost. Oh, that's kind of piratey. Do I get a coin for that? Girl ghost on March 4th. I can't believe Amazon knows me better than any person in my life. After we sent her a recommendation of a dog with a party hat, cupcake phone holder. This person says, the Amazon algorithm just recommended these to me. It knows me so well. Amazon always knows the right things to suggest to me. A bunch of T-Rexes. Amazon knows me and my Kermit habit really well. That face when Amazon knows my aesthetic octopus cheek. I think that's more awkward than Kermit. When we do machine learning right, we can create a magical experience for customers. I think this is a really powerful feeling when customers think that Amazon gets them. That's really hard to accomplish, especially if you can't have a human-to-human interaction every day. In other words, when we create a message, we try to make sure it's picked, packed, and shipped just for you. So I think a good analogy is this. By show of hands, how many of you have had an Amazon box arrive on your doorstep? You know the feeling, right? It's this awesome feeling of anticipation. You've just clicked ordered, you get your order confirmation. Maybe like 18 hours later, you get your shipment delivery. 20 hours later, it's on your doorstep. It's amazing. It's like Christmas, except you buy your presents yourself. And I think this feeling is really important to capture. I personally love that feeling of the box being on my doorstep just for me. And it turns out so does the internet. Says literally, that face when you open your door at 6 a.m. and outside there's a package you ordered from Amazon less than 24 hours ago. Mike Costa says, I imagine being in love feels like getting an Amazon package on your doorstep. I don't know. I feel like we should help Mike out a bit. I really like this one. Darnell says, I love buying stuff on Amazon just for the anticipation and excitement of a package arriving on my doorstep. It's a really powerful feeling. And last year when I went to try to craft the North Star for email marketing at Amazon, when I tried to figure out how we should guide the investments we're making and the innovations that we want to build, I thought that this was the feeling we should capture. Customers should feel the same anticipation, curiosity, and delight to see a notification from Amazon as they feel to see an Amazon box on their doorstep. We are proudest when customers feel that Amazon gets you. So when we ask, how do we tame the robots? How do we make sure that technology doesn't run away with us? I think this is the answer. The answer is customer obsession. If you start with your customer and work backwards, and if you always work to earn your customers' trust, then your innovations are going to follow. You won't have to worry about technology going crazy because you've already set the right metrics. You've set customer-first success. And we try at Amazon to prioritize customer obsession over technology. At Amazon, we have these leadership principles, and this is the top of our list. But we definitely run into the same debates that you guys have. After all, we're a business. We have to make money, and we want to do it by spending as little money as possible. And email is generally a really great way to do this because email has great ROI. So I wanted to get a sense of how much your businesses value email, and because this crowd is not tweeting and super dead, we're going to do this by standing up. So everyone stand up if your business sends email marketing. Grumble, grumble, grumble. There's one guy who doesn't send email marketing. All right. Keep standing if email is one of your highest ROI channels. Wow. Oh, what channel is better than email? Events. What did you say? Events. Oh, we should start hosting some events. Okay, thanks for that idea. I think this is totally right. Generally, email is a great return on investment. I think there's a stat that's like $1 you spend is $38 or $40 in return. It's pretty awesome. Third question, this is a little harder. Keep standing if you've never had a business versus customer scenario. You've never had a CEO walk by your desk and say, we have to send this message, we have to send this promo today. I don't care if the customer doesn't like it. You've never had to do this. Keep standing. Oh. Wow, that is sad. I should take a photo. You guys deserve keep your spine strong. Have backbone. That was really sad. So there's a few left of us who are still standing? It's a really hard question, right? When business and customer are head-to-head, sometimes business wins. Okay, so for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 left of you, let's ask a harder question. Let's say that you find out your customers are not really enjoying your marketing. Maybe they're opting out. Maybe you've sent something offensive. Maybe you've notified them that they've sized up to a medium from a small based on their purchase history. So keep standing if you know that your company would shut down email. If they would say, based on these few customers who had a bad experience, we're going to turn off the channel. No more revenue, no more traffic, no more impressions. No one's going to stay standing. Everyone just wants to sit down. So I think that's really eye-opening, right? For me, that highlights the tension between business and email. It's really hard for us to say no to a super lucrative channel. Like 40 to 1 odds, I'll take that any day. But this is what happened at Amazon. At Amazon in 2010, a customer emailed Jeff Bezos with a complaint. This customer was shopping in our health and personal care product line. And because we're on the automated email team, we thought it would be super helpful if we gave him some recommendations based on his purchase and view history. Recommendations based on his views in intimacy, and in gels, and in all sorts of other things he was looking at. And surprise, the customer didn't think this was helpful. The customer thought this was super creepy and really awkward and totally invasive. So he told Jeff Bezos to do something about it, and Jeff calls a meeting with our VP, Steve Scher, who is actually my VP right now, and he says, I want you to shut down the email channel. We can build a $100 billion company without sending a single email, so who's going to get up and shut down email today? That's super scary for my job security. I think this anecdote is really important to highlight just how much Amazon puts customer trust above everything else. And so in the end, we did shut down email. We turned off email for HPC, the health and personal care product line, and we built a bunch of filtering logic on top of it. Business rules, guidelines, content appropriateness. We have all of these human gut checks as to what is and is not appropriate to send via email. So if we're going to do it right, we have to make sure we put our customers first. We can't just let automation do everything for us and never audit the mechanism. In other words, email for Amazon is a privilege. It's not a right. We don't have to send it. You don't have to get it in your inbox. If we don't do it right, we can turn it off. We can figure out another way. And this is also why I think it's increasingly stressful to be an email marketer. At least for me, it's really stressful, because now you have to do it all. It used to be that you were just a market researcher / content designer / quality assurance, but now you are in the space that is most private and personal to the customer. You're aware that customer conducts business or communicates with their family and friends, maybe manages financial transactions, and you have to navigate that space, earn the customer's trust, and keep up with technology while you're at it. So now you have to be an HTML and CSS expert. You have to make sure your emails look good. You have to tell your CEOs, no, we can't remove the unsubscribe button. We still have to maintain customer trust. You have to have the courage to press the send button. That's really stressful. I think we've all felt that stress at some point. And today, many of email marketers are also really well versed in multiple different marketing automation systems. I think if you looked at anybody's LinkedIn profile here, they'd be like, I know Epsilon and Marketo and Pardot and Salesforce and all these other things. And finally, starting tomorrow, well, starting in 30 minutes, you also have to become an expert on machine learning, artificial intelligence, all sorts of new technologies that help you understand customers better and faster than you could by yourselves. And actually, probably the most terrifying thing is you probably won't understand the customers at all. It's the machine that's doing the understanding. But that's okay, because I think Blake at Salesforce said this yesterday. We embrace disruption. I think email is one of the most malleable industries. Every time something new comes up, we totally go for it. It's totally okay. And we automate so that we can serve our customers efficiently and at scale. We're not afraid to try out these new technologies because we know it's probably going to get us a better experience for our customers. We want to automate our manual decisions. But soon we also want to automate our decision-making process. We want to say, not just say follow this path, but we also want to say decide this path and go follow it. And that's machine learning. I think it's like the hottest buzzword of today. Everyone's talking about ML. Everybody wants to invest in ML. So we're going to look at some industry examples where ML has great business applicability in our industry and beyond. Before we do that, though, we should make sure we're using the same terminology. So just some definitions. Today, I noticed that AI and ML are typically used interchangeably. I don't use them interchangeably. When I say artificial intelligence, I mean this big idea that one day, machines will be able to make decisions and complete tasks in a human-like fashion, in a way we think smart, in a way we think that's natural. But when I say ML, machine learning, I mean the near-term mechanism, the method by which today we work towards AI. Usually this is, you might hear this in the context of supervised machine learning, having an output and an input that you both know, and training a particular type of model. You might hear about unsupervised machine learning, where your output is unknown, and so then you're asking the machine to uncover some pattern in the data. It's a mechanism that we use today. And of course, there's good old automation, having a script that does the tasks for you, tasks that are repetitive and don't require certain types of decision making. The applications of ML reach into every industry, not just our own, from healthcare and defense and law to fraud, image recognition, natural language processing, and of course, marketing personalization. Here are some of my favorites. Does this look familiar to anybody? I hear murmurings. This is IBM's Watson. This is the Eyes of Watson UI, a UI that doctors can use today as a tool to help them diagnose different types of anomalies in your tissue. Watson, just like a human, enrolled in medical school. He went to the Ivy League, or it went to the Ivy League. It was enrolled in Columbia, and it trained on a bunch of medical data so that it can help detect these anomalies faster and more accurately than any human. This image recognition is amazing. You can imagine applications in fraud detection or in image catalog data. At Amazon, we have lots and lots of products. It's really hard for a human to curate each of the product images. So we need another mechanism to make sure those images are safe for our customers. Here's another example. Does anyone know what this number is called? Because I also don't know what this number is called. Alexa, what's this number? So I actually don't know what this number is called. I didn't even count how many zeros were after it, but what it represents is the total permutations of the game Go, the strategy game. And you probably recognize this picture. It was really big in the news just a couple of weeks ago. This is AlphaGo's 37th move in game 2 against Lee Sedol, which AlphaGo won. I think it won 4 out of those 5 games. And this is incredible because of the way AlphaGo learned to play Go. I think older versions of smart software that plays chess against you, typically they try to evaluate a bunch of different permutations for some scenario, and it takes a long time. But it would be impossible to evaluate this 1,000 number of permutations in Go. So AlphaGo instead learns by playing against itself. It plays millions of different matches against itself, basically simulations, until it can figure out a strategy to use against a human. And I think you guys should totally Google this if you haven't read about it already. This is a world where the output of this software is truly beautiful. It emulates human decision-making so much better and more surprising than even some humans can. I think it's super interesting. You can imagine applications for gaming, for chatbots, for customer service. What about this one? Has anyone seen this technology already? This is called deep image analogy. I found this on Reddit. I don't know if they're okay with me posting it. It's public domain. So this is called deep image analogy. It was done by, I think, a group of scientists from Cornell. What they do is they take some visual semantic data from the left-hand side and map it over to the right-hand side. So mapping over color, tone, texture, shape. And it allows us to translate between 2 images. For example, you can go from Avatar to Mona Lisa and back. I think this is so amazing. I can imagine a fashion retailer that designs garments for me based on other garments I've upvoted or liked or rated. I can imagine a furniture retailer like IKEA creating furniture for me based on my room aesthetic. I also think this has really interesting copyright implications because what's fair use now? Can I just take Seinfeld and make it anime into Seinfeld? Like, now it's going to be as easy as a couple hours of rendering time, and then, well, not a couple hours, but it's going to be some rendering time, and then I'll have this brand new experience. It's kind of scary. And of course, at Amazon, we use machine learning. We use it in the sense of marketing personalization, trying to find you the best message at the right place at the right time, in the right channel. This is a screenshot of my Amazon homepage. You can see that machine learning helps us do one very interesting thing, and that's figure out associations that humans probably can't figure out. I probably wouldn't have put Downy and Glad trash bags next to Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Or maybe I would, I don't know. But the machine figured out that at the time I was looking for trash bags. I actually was running near the end of my box. And I also was looking for a book to pick up for my flight here. I think this is pretty amazing. This is the kind of unsupervised learning I'm talking about, where we can make these associations, find the edges between customer behavior, cluster them, and we don't even have to spend the human energy to figure this stuff out. But there's a core theme to all this, and that's we use machine learning for a customer-first approach. We use machine learning so customers can receive recommendations they like, not recommendations we like. I don't get recommendations for products that are only beneficial to Amazon or have brands who've paid some money behind it. I get products because they are actually products I'm interested in, and that's what maintains and builds customer trust. That's what helps this guy, Evan Flo, to think that Amazon knows him so well. It's what keeps him from getting random DVDs that he doesn't care about, and instead getting random pillows with Nicolas Cage that he does care about. Like, I probably would never have been able to identify from Evan, even if I had known him in person, been his best friend since childhood, maybe since childhood, that would have been okay. But like, even if I had known Evan, I probably wouldn't have guessed that he really likes customized Nicolas Cage custom zippered pillowcase, $6.50. But I think there's a problem. So now everyone's like, wow, ML is so awesome. It's going to help us deliver better services, better recommendations, better content to customers. And I think the danger of that is we start treating it like it's a magic silver bullet. And it's not. ML is expensive. It takes a lot of skill to implement and implement well. It takes humans to audit the mechanism and the output from ML. It's not like you can just tell two drones, if you're going to crash into each other, don't. It's not that easy. These next few slides I actually stole from my colleague, Rob Haitani. Hi, Rob. I think he really elegantly explains how machine learning works and what the challenges of designing for machines are. A machine is black and white. It has two colors. It has right and wrong. It doesn't see all the shades in between. A machine, when it evaluates something, it says, literally, what's the answer? But a human says, obviously, that's not the right answer. For example, obviously, that was a joke. Obviously, that was satire. Obviously, no one's tweeting this, so no one's going to know I was ever here. Obviously. A machine and a human will sit down to the same picture and think about it differently. So we're humans. We're looking at this picture. What is this? A triangle. Super easy, right? And the machine will look at this and go, yep, that looks like a triangle. It has three sides. The sides connect. There's 180 degrees. It's on a 2D plane. I think that's a triangle. But if I change it, now as humans, we look at this shape and what do we think it is? Wow. Whoever that was is special. It's a triangle still, right? Obviously, this is a triangle. Nothing has changed. It's just moved to the right a couple inches. But a machine looks at this and goes, no, it's definitely a trapezoid. It's definitely something different. It has 4 edges now. Or if your machine isn't very smart, it might still be looking in the center and is like, there's definitely nothing here. It's just white space. What about this one? When a human sits down and looks at this shape, what shape is this? It's still a triangle. But this type of shape is much more complex for a machine to evaluate. It probably takes a lot more training data, a lot more time. So when you think about implementing machine learning, it's not a magic bullet. It takes a lot of work, but it's not so different from human learning. In essence, you give it some input data, make sure you have a lot of it, make sure it's clean. You allow it to find some patterns, and then you audit the output. And you do it again, and again, and again. This is one of my favorite examples of machine learning in the industry, and I think Maybe you've seen it before. How many of you guys, by show of hands, have taken a selfie? So you know what a selfie is. It's when you hold up your phone and you take a photo of yourself. How do you know if your selfie is good? What makes a good selfie? I don't know. Does anybody have a good selfie? Everyone's really embarrassed about their selfies. Well, this guy, Andrej Karpathy, you can read his work in that link at the bottom, or you can just Google him. Andrej Karpathy decided to apply machine learning to figure out whether or not your selfie was any good. He did this with a neural net. And here's what he did. I think his approach is really elegant. He took all the publicly available selfies on Facebook, I think like a dump of 2 million selfies, and he ranked them by likes. Selfies with a lot of likes and a lot of tags and some other attributes were good selfies. Selfies with not many likes were bad selfies, adjusted for the number of followers that you have. And then he released his neural net to learn about these selfies. So this is very typical in how it works. For a particular neural net, you're giving it a lot of training data. The neural net is trying to make some estimates on what it thinks the image is. You also tag the images with the right answer so that the neural net can learn and improve. And in this case, the neural net is evaluating this picture on the left-hand side and thinks that most likely it's not a frog. Most likely it's a dog. So once Karpathy's neural net had trained on 2 million selfies, it was ready to evaluate new selfies. This is not me. This is somebody else. The neural net gave this selfie a score of 53.1. It's pretty good. It's got a nice headshot, lots of light, lots of color. But the neural net also said, I'm going to make this selfie better. I'm going to crop it and make it closer. And it gave this new selfie a score of 67.3. I think it's not perfect, but you kind of can see where the machine's going. It's trying to improve your selfie based on patterns it recognizes. What about this one? The neural net gave this one a score of 52.0. It's got nice color, a great big smile. And then the neural net was like, I'm going to make this so much better. I'm going to take the self out of the selfie. So that's why we need a gut check. The machines don't always get it right. Or maybe it did get it right. Maybe the machine was like, machines are awesome. I'm going to take the human out of it. Now it's a way better selfie. So for better or worse, machine learning reflects humans. It reflects human behavior. This is a screenshot of Karpathy's top-ranked selfies. As you can see, they're pretty homogeneous. There are no men in the top-ranked selfies. There are no women with short hair. All of them have dark lips, long hair, great lighting. And usually there's some sort of frame around it too. So what I think this underlines for us is if we just trust machines and we don't have any business logic, any human gut check, any emotion or storytelling on top of it, I'm actually not sure if the machine's output reflects the best of humanity. We probably need to add in something else. Machine learning is powerful, but it's only as powerful as your data set. In addition, machine learning is typically goal-driven. You give it something to optimize for, and it's really good at optimizing for that one thing. So if you have no checks and balances, it's just going to go straight for that one thing. And if you don't have the right metric of success set, if it's not customer first, you're quickly going to lose control, and it's going to be something else. So my point is, machine learning is very interesting. It's very powerful. It's in all sorts of different industries. But I don't want us to think about machine learning as the one-size-fits-all type of answer. I don't want it to become your magic bullet. Simple automation also works. You shouldn't be hiding really simple and beautiful ideas behind a really expensive implementation. You should start today. Today, you can look at your customers. You can see how do they signal to you. Are they viewing? Are they searching? Are they purchasing? Are they calling a sales rep? Are they walking into a brick and mortar store? You should be looking at how your business reacts to those signals. Are you emailing them, calling them, asking them about how their experience was? You should take a look at how you connect signal to content or signal to action. How or when or why or how often are you sending your emails or other channels? Are you taking a cross-channel approach? So in summary, I like to think about this as, don't get so caught up in the AI of tomorrow that you forget the BI of today. You should invest in artificial intelligence, definitely. You should invest in machine learning. It's going to come. All platforms are going to start using it, but you shouldn't hide really great and elegant ideas behind that. You should use your business intelligence. You should use your human response to figure out what customers like, because guess what? You have a leg up. You're a human, so you're probably able to connect with a human in a way that's better than a machine can do today. So don't get so caught up in the AI of tomorrow that you forget the BI of today. I'm totally over time. In summary, there are 3 things I keep really close to my heart when I'm evaluating what to develop, how to develop it, and how to serve our customers. First, email is a privilege, not a right. We don't have to send it. Amazon doesn't have to send email. You're still going to buy stuff on Amazon. The box is still going to get there. It's still going to be a great experience. So we have to do it right. Second, machine learning is as powerful as our data set. A lot of people said yesterday, you need to find the friction points, find the data that you need, and then collect it. And there's many different mechanisms for collecting it. But if you don't have that data, you're going to train on the wrong behaviors. You're going to have the wrong output. Or if you have too little data, then you'll have bias. Third, plan for the AI of tomorrow, deliver the BI of today. Otherwise, you don't have a job, right? You're all smart. You all have emotions and storytelling and feeling. You should be able to connect and analyze your customers today while investing towards the technology of tomorrow. And the most important thing, keep your focus on the customer, work backwards into the technologies you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Vicki's going to be with us for is here with us throughout today, and she can join you at the roundtable if you have questions for her. And I'm going to defer any questions to Vicki for the panel that I'm going to bring up now, which is going to extend this point. But please, many thanks to Vicki Gee. And let me ask, this panel is Elaine, Director of Email Marketing and Marketing Automation at The Ohio State University. She's worked at companies like Experian and Bath & Body Works, and she's returned to her alma mater, Ohio State University, to run their email program. Please welcome Elena Armbruster.
That's okay. It's wonderful. As long as people is running.
All right, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Vicki, for teeing us up here. I'm gonna go ahead and ask the guys, jump right in, introduce yourselves, and kind of talk about where you are in your automation journey.
Sure, so I'm Matt Bird. When I'm not sitting in the front row Twitter trolling this conference, I am gainfully employed at a company called Policy Genius. We are blessed to have 2 insurance people on this panel, actually. So if you want to have a riveting conversation about deductibles or personal property damage, you are in luck. We started off with the very basic question of why is the process of buying insurance pretty frustrating most of the time? In terms of helping consumers be better at buying insurance, not just being sold insurance. So that means like leading with education first, helping people make better decisions about what they need and what they don't need, at what levels they need it at. So to that end, actually, automation has kind of always been part of our company DNA. We're taking a process that was formerly a very human-to-human conversation around a kitchen table and bringing that entire conversation online. For example, like the average age of a life insurance agent is 59. They are not being replaced, so someone has to step in and automate that entire conversation at scale to continue serving the insurance industry well. So that means we give automated advice, but just because it's automated doesn't mean it's not personal. We ask a ton of questions to get to know you, get to know your situation, and make sure that we deliver the best advice and quotes we can. In terms of the communications, we're in I think about phase 2 of how I kind of imagine a 3-phase process. The first is at first we just needed to figure out how to bring that human conversation online. And that was a whole ton of just manual work, figuring that out. One-off sends, testing stuff. Now we're in kind of phase 2, a lot of it thanks to a platform switch we did to Iterable to be able to automate email, SMS, direct mail, all in one single flow. So now we're taking those things we learned from the manual work, automating them all through that. The third phase will be kind of, okay, now that we've automated all these baselines, how do we start to personalize and actually improve? So we're kind of in a very middle point right now where we've automated everything we learned as humans, and we're going to start testing and iterating from there.
Perfect. John?
Yeah, John Kavalauskas with People's Trust Insurance. I come from a real diverse background, have had a lot of experience implementing email programs in the past, At People's Trust, we are in phase 1 of maybe 20. Prior to joining the organization late last year, they didn't even have an email nurture or life cycle or anything, so we're very early in that phase.
Awesome. And Anthony?
I'm Anthony Siciliano. I am the CRM production manager for Thrifty Rent-A-Car under the Hertz Corporation. I would say that we're in the very kind of early basic stages of automation that Vicki outlined at the end of her presentation. We do have a number of automated messages that go out from a transactional perspective. A lot of your confirmation emails, reminder emails, cancellation, modification emails, anything that you do that actually pertains directly to your rental reservation is all automated. We've recently started branching out into expanded series, welcome series for the Hertz Dollar and Thrifty brands, as well as rate abandon series that we're working through. Again, very, very early on in the process. We've been doing a lot of testing and optimization, but really just kind of scratching the surface.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So something Vicki touched on is managing this trade-off between the automation, the machine learning, and then having the human touch, or really just control. How are you guys managing that trade-off with your programs? Anthony, let's start with you.
I think that there's a misconception that when you do streamline and automate things that you lose the control. I think that you actually, if you do enough planning on the front end, you still maintain a lot of that control within the automation, but it's really about having that that plan that, you know, and a lot of times when we will start something, we will whiteboard it, and, you know, maybe the current goal is only to get 2 or 3 steps down the line, 1 or 2 messages down the line, but ultimately you have to plan for, when we expand this series out, what are we going to do when we get to the 4th message, the 5th message, the 6th message? What data do we need to carry along throughout? So I think that that control is still there if you do enough planning in the beginning.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely, it's not, are you going to manage it? It is, how are you going to manage it? Like, if you look around, even like the platforms you guys used to use, the things that used to be called email service providers are not called email service providers anymore. They are marketing automation platforms. So if you haven't started figuring out how you're going to get to the point of even managing this process, you need to catch up. Happy to talk. For us, it's all about testing things that we have already, or automating things that we have learned already work. We rarely just launch into like, we're going to turn on a 30-day automation that's 16 emails and 5 text messages. Like, no. Let's figure out if it even works through like one-off testing to get signals either way. We also, I mean, we do a lot of things that we would do otherwise if we could do them one-to-one. Like, I have emails automated from Jen, our CEO. She would happily sit down and message every single customer if she could. She can't. But the trade-off there is that if you respond, it goes to Jen's inbox. She's going to respond to you. So we make sure that we maintain a human element to all of it, which helps us to streamline as much as possible, but still maintain some sort of human control over it all.
Yeah, I think it's real important to, you know, consider the planning and putting in the right infrastructure in place prior to really getting too sophisticated moving forward. At a previous organization that took over an email program, when I joined, they had flipped on an automation and did not realize that it had not been even running for the past 2 months. So it's just, there's no magical switch that you could turn on to a program and have it run. It's, you know, all the planning, the integration, the, you know, the forward thinking is real important.
Kind of along those lines, have you guys had any experience where things have gone up and running, and maybe people knew they were running, but it just went terribly wrong and you went, oh no, this is not what we had planned?
Oh my God, Elaine, no, we're all perfect. Yeah, we actually had one recently. So we, again, through like Iterable and all the things we can do now, we automated the process of people getting follow-up phone calls. You're still talking to a human when you pick up, but the process of you getting dialed is pretty much automated at this point. And we noticed as soon as we turned it on, we benchmark again to everything we were doing manually before. And it just wasn't performing as well. We were like, oh my God, this is automation. It should be performing so well. And what we realized was that the human agents, when they were reaching out one-to-one before, would see applications come in and prioritize their call cadence based off of certain fields that people did or did not fill out. Because if people fill out more, you can assume they're a higher intent customer. People who fill out less are probably just casual shoppers. And we had not calculated that human process into our automation. So people were just getting called automatically based off of the order that the applications came in. So we weren't taking into account the priority we needed to for the higher intent customers. As soon as we, again, took that human process and replicated it in the automation, things were much better. People were much happier and sleeping again.
Anything else?
I wouldn't say that we've had anything go horribly wrong, but we've definitely had experience with certain things that just aren't working the way we had hoped, and really that's just a matter of testing and optimization. I mean, we have a welcome series, currently a 3-email series for the Hertz brand, and we started noticing that by the 3rd email, our engagement is dropping significantly. And we've been doing some testing recently to figure out, is it, we're just not getting the opens that we want, we're just not getting the engagement we want, and it's really just a matter of testing different versions of the subject line, different versions of the email creative, and really trying to get that engagement to keep going throughout the series.
I think with automation, a lot of the little things can be really amplified. So a little mistake multiplied numerous times can really become a big mistake. So something to look for, to watch out for.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, you had mentioned when you were talking about your automation journey, personalization. I'm curious if you could talk more about how you're inputting that into your automation strategy.
So that's kind of the direction we're starting to move in now. Insurance is interesting because people normally buy it because of some major life trigger, like life insurance, for example. People buy because they got married, they just had a baby, they bought a house. Those are like very emotional triggers that start this entire journey in that process. So we're now trying to look for ways to integrate those triggers into your communications. So like the number one reason people stop the process is just because they don't want to do it. Like they think it's cumbersome, they think it's boring, that's not exciting. They want to go watch Sense8 or something on Netflix.
It was canceled.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Now people are going to be upset. It should have had life insurance. And so we know that those emotional triggers are things that we can get people to remind them as to why they started this to begin with. Like, this is actually important. You're trying to protect the child you just had. So we're looking for ways to bring that into our email flows. We can do that in a variety of ways, like the ad campaign that someone responded to, for example. We know the ad that they saw. We know the cadence of the ads they saw. We can then start to filter that in. Ways we're going to do it is like different photography, different value props based off of the reason we know you started the journey. So we think that's going to have big effects for just like bringing those kind of staler people back into the process, just reminding them the reasons they started to begin with.
What about you guys? Any thoughts on how you insert personalization into the journey?
Yeah, so one of the things that Vicki said is it's all about the data that you have. It's very, very important. You have to start there. We have some challenges because our data comes from a number of different sources, and none of it tends to be in the same place really where we need it to be. So one of the strategies that we're trying to implement is letting the customer kind of help us personalize the message for them. Something that we want to implement into one of our automated series is actually a survey to have them tell us when they're planning their next trip and when, so that this way we can kind of time out that message and make it more appropriate and more relevant, and say, instead of just having them in a weekly batch and blast of, hey, here's your offer, actually speak to them when their trip is coming up and say specifically, hey, your trip is coming up, why don't you look at renting a car from us?
Okay, I'll just add on to that really quickly. This is a great point, because to do some of this stuff well, you don't have to have massive, sophisticated, like AI, ML, acronym. You can do simple stuff like ask people questions in emails. At another job I had, we were trying to figure out where people were in the wedding planning process. We could have done all this like triangulation and sorcery and witchcraft to figure it out, But instead, in our just very first welcome email, we said, are you getting organized? Are you finding vendors? Are you in like the final days? And personalized everything from there. You can do this just as an email person by putting stuff in your emails that people can indicate on.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. We're trying to implement what I did at a previous life at an automotive retailer, where we used website behavior, geographic demographic appends to the customer to really give them relevant and timely messaging. For example, if they're a younger individual living in Chicago in the wintertime, perhaps a pickup in the snow or something like that was a really relevant message versus somebody down in Florida. And we're trying to apply that to our messaging, in the insurance world, where, if we know that they're a homeowner and are a younger homeowner with a family, the marketing imagery to go around that.
You guys have all touched on data, a little bit of testing in there as well. I'm curious to know how you're measuring, how you're optimizing to make sure that you're meeting your company goals, but also letting the automation do what it was actually designed to do in the best way possible. John, why don't you start with that one?
Sure. I think looking at the metrics and being able to decipher what it truly means is real important. So setting, a baseline and determining, benchmarks are real critical. And just always looking at the data and always optimizing and creating tests in varying sophistication.
Yeah, I'm pretty blessed in that I work for like a very small young tech startup, so having that sort of data is pretty easy for me. We don't have to like battle old systems, we don't have any of that kind of stuff, so it's all pretty readily available. Again, yeah, it is benchmarking everything and making sure that, again, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, just because you're automating something doesn't mean that that's a huge step forward. Making sure that you're not only saving on efficiency, but the things that you're automating you can then like test and scale and continue improving. So yeah, everything we turn on as a test. If it's something we were running manually previously before, we make sure that we reach that parity before we change anything else. So automating things that we knew were successful, making sure that the metrics match what they were before, and then scaling and optimizing from there.
How are you setting up those tests?
Sure, so it's a few different things. I mean, it depends on what we're testing. Landing pages, we use Optimizely, which makes it pretty easy. Our email platform, Iterable, you can just like drag and drop an A/B test as part of a workflow. We sync, this is also nerdy, we sync all that data in through Chartio, and I can make all the like charts analysis I want from there. Also a great tool is something called Segment, if you're not familiar with Segment. It's basically like a snippet of code you drop on your site, and it tracks basically any action you want. So I can even see like if my new email automation isn't doing the thing I expected it to do, but in fact people are doing this wild other thing, like I still have that data, which is nice.
Perfect. What do you think, Anthony?
Well, for us, it's really, a lot of the same, a lot of benchmarking. Our company has always kind of traditionally relied on vendors for a lot of our email marketing programs. The CRM team is relatively new to our company, and we do have a lot to kind of prove. We were able to take over some of these series that they would normally rely on these other vendors. And for us, it's really just kind of showing that by bringing it in-house, it gives us more control and more flexibility to change the messaging or adapt the messaging and optimize the messaging. So really, we're using our data and results basically to continue to prove that, the more we bring in-house, it's not going to necessarily negatively affect our engagement or the customer experience, but ultimately give us more control and more flexibility to do what we want with the programs.
I think one of the biggest things for us is just that trade-off of how much are you going to invest into optimizing and testing. How much is that 0.1% of a lift of one particular email going to get you over the next year versus the 200 hours that you need to invest into that. And I think that's always trying to juggle that and trying to determine, is it worth it?
Yeah, I was just going to say there are definitely big overhead costs initially, which can make like the internal sell a bit complicated sometimes.
That's perfect segue. You just go ahead and take it out.
Sure.
Talk, a little about how you're getting leadership to buy into some of this.
Yeah, I'll ask myself a question.
I'm just gonna.
Sure. So yeah, there is initial overhead costs, right? Like you have to have the platform, you have to spend the man hours automating all of these things, and that is not easy. But I mean, aside from automating and finding efficiencies and saving time in that way, you can also make the case because, for example, for us, in terms of reaching out to all of our customers, it was all manual and ad hoc. And if we wanted to know, like, okay, what happens when we call people 10 minutes after their application as opposed to 15? It was kind of like, I don't know, shrug emoji, because like the agent is calling, this agent calls 5 minutes after, that agent calls 7 after. Like, there's a case to be made for just bringing consistency to everything so that you know as a company, this is our strategy and here's how it works, as opposed to just kind of like the wild, wild west of whoever's doing what. So I make cases based off of efficiency plays, getting data we didn't previously have before like that, and then just the easy optimizations and scales we can make from there. It's pretty easy to prove as soon as you start experimenting with some of this stuff.
What about you guys? Same experience, easy to prove to leadership?
Yeah, I think just looking at the data and being able to present that in the way they could comprehend it and absorb it. And every organization is different. Right now, at People's Trust, senior management is not as knowledgeable as they have been in marketing technology as previous roles that I've been in. So it's in some aspects easier when you have data behind it and being able to present, you know, what the 6 months from today look like if we continue down this path.
And you know, for us in particular, as I previously mentioned, it was really a matter of just kind of proving that you know, not only that we could handle the programs, it's the flexibility and efficiencies of bringing it in-house versus having some of these things be managed by external vendors, because there's always, you know, added cost for every single change. There's always added hoops to jump through. There's always, you know, processes that you have to go through for these requests, where managing these things internally, we could really, you know, turn things around much more quickly and kind of affect change.
Yeah, great. So as people are getting started, what would be some of the advice you might give? Just a little snippet, if you could say, okay, I'm starting my journey, what would you tell someone?
I would kind of echo some of what Vicky was saying, and I was saying this in the roundtable yesterday about the new toys and whatnot. Like, automation is still like a 201 course. Like, master your 101s first. Like, if you haven't figured out how to talk to your customers, how to personalize at some basic level, who they are, what their motivations are, like, figure that stuff out first. Don't just like buy Salesforce and get excited and automate a million things just for the sake of doing it. You're automating things that are core to what we do as email marketers to begin with. So being a good storyteller, finding out what people's motivations are, all of those foundational things do first. Automation is great. We have an entire panel about it. It's wonderful, but master the foundational elements first. That is, if you're doing trash to begin with and then you automate trash, you've automated trash. So make sure that you have those foundational elements first before you like just start automating for the sake of doing it.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly what Matt said. That foundation is key, and you know, the planning. You can never spend too much time planning and whiteboarding, especially when you're looking at automating and putting automation in place.
For me, I would say that data is key. It's definitely part of that foundation. You know, if you don't have the data in place to make the automations work, to make the decisions that you make about the series and how you're sending out these messages work, then it's just not going to work. And if you don't have the data necessarily that you would like to use, you know, really planning on doing the whiteboarding and making a plan as to how you're going to get that data is really the next step.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we'll go ahead and open it up to some questions.
Yeah, let's have questions.
You've answered everything possible.
I have a question about, I'm always curious about this one, and that is customer experience and consumer experience. It's a sort of a broad and a fuzzy phrase, and I'm curious how we really measure it. I mean, the metrics often are pretty blunt in terms of, you know, opens, click-throughs, unsubscribes, but it's really a very general concept and a general feeling that people have towards the brand, and it has a lot more to do with brand metrics than direct response metrics. So I'm curious if any of you are thinking about how we really are measuring the impact of automation on the overall consumer experience, whether we're alienating consumers or not.
Sure, yeah, that one is pretty forefront of our minds every day at PG, especially because, like, again, the insurance process is pretty personal. You're sharing a lot of information about yourself. You're doing it because you want to protect something very important, so customer experience is paramount. We focus a lot on finding the places that we are still very, very human, and that is important to us, regardless of data points, regardless of anything else, because insurance, you just need that. Like, you can automate pretty transactional things where people don't care about there being a human on the other end of getting a text message that reminds you your med exam is on Thursday. That's a pretty just solid notification. You don't need to know that Matt sent that to you from a desk in New York. But there are moments where that human just has to be there, and for that, regardless of data points, regardless of anything, is important to us. Like, if someone you go through the entire process and then the insurance company comes back and is like, no, actually you thought you were going to get this premium at $30 and it's actually $35, you'd better have a human there because that person wants to talk about it. So we think about that as part of our customer experience and our brand experience is like, let's automate the things that can be automated, but people want a human on the other end for part of this process, and that, regardless of data points, regardless of anything, is like very foundational for us. So that's how we've approached making sure that we still have our experience in place.
I think the data is really important, like Anthony mentioned, having that in place. So therefore, if your automation sends a wrong message to the wrong person, it could really, distract the customer experience.
Yeah, it's always important to keep the customer in the front of your mind. I mean, it would be very easy to kind of, set it up, put the messages out there that you want to put out there, and just, forget it and not pay attention to what the customer experience is. As I said, with one of our programs, we did notice that we were losing some engagement the further down in the series, and if you're not paying attention to it, you're not going to notice that, and maybe it's a matter of the message you're sending just isn't relevant to them, or it's just too much. So it's really about testing and optimization and making sure that you're sending it at the right time and the message is actually relevant.
Another option, if you do want like a data point behind it that we do pay attention to, is an NPS score. We survey everyone who goes through the process with us, and I go back and forth on this because I think NPS is kind of a weird arbitrary metric, but that's an entirely different panel. So we've kept track of that as we've continued to automate stuff. Like from day one, we NPS'd everything. Like when Jen, our CEO, was still our one agent and she was on the phone with everyone, we tracked NPS. Now that we have X number of agents and we automated all these things, we still track NPS. And that has gotten so automated to reflect as well on our brand.
Elaine, panel, we're going to continue this in the roundtable at the end of the morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's an issue that I continue to be curious about. Is on the other end of these experiences that become increasingly automated, to what degree are people getting the impression from the brand that they are the subject of greater and greater automation, and how they're responding to it? And we're still not sure. Unique businesses and the ways in which they relate to their consumers and customers is unique, and that makes email an even more interesting component in their mix. A lot of you don't know Silver Star Brands, but if you consult your grandma or your older aunt, you'll probably find one of their catalogs somewhere in their living room. Brands like Miles Kimball and Walter Drake have been doing what you guys have been doing for the last 15, 20 years, personalization and direct marketing. They've been doing it for 83 years. They are the catalogs behind a huge number of highly personalized, customized products, from pens to paper to just about everything that can have a name and address on it. And they've been doing this for decades. The ways in which they then took that list, those relationships, and moved them into email, and the ways in which they're usually using email to push and move their business across channels is the interesting story that we have Ian McDonald here to tell. He's the director and general manager at Silver Star Brands. He came to the brand several years ago, worked in a number of interesting businesses like Silver Star Brands, like Party Supplies Delivered, the Pond Guy catalog, and Century Novelty. Please welcome Ian McDonald.
I'm going to try this stage first and see if I can see my PowerPoint or not. So I'm filling in for my boss, Kathy Heck. We'll give this a try, sure, okay. So Steve, that was a great introduction. Usually when people say ask your grandma, I don't find that particularly helpful, but in our case, your grandma knows exactly who we are. I'm gonna get the clicker. So filling in for my boss, she had a family emergency. On Monday, she asked if I could do this for me, and she swore the presentation was about 90% done. I think she had her math opposite. It was about 10% done. That plus the kayaking excursion yesterday that I recognize a lot of you from that took 3 hours in the thunderstorm. I've never worked this hard at a conference in my life. So let's give this a try. So bear with me. This is new to me too. So Silver Star Brands is probably the largest multi-channel retailer you've never heard of. We operate a portfolio of companies. Our biggest are Miles, Kimball, and Walter Drake, and that's your grandma's brands. Those are things like kitchen storage, kitchen tablecloths, plastic geese for the front lawn of your very classic trailer park. We've got Native Remedies, which is homeopathic and herbal supplements. Easy Comforts is for even older people. That's like daily living aids, things like adult diapers, walkers, a lot of things for arthritis or mobility issues. Exposures is a company that's focused on home decor and photography, so it's about preserving life's memories. So anything you could put a picture on, we sell it there. If you want to store printed pictures, you can come to us for that. And as we change as a health, wellness, and beauty company for women, it's focused on things like bathing suits, shoes, anti-aging products. So we started back in the 30s by a guy actually named Miles Kimball. And he really invented product personalization before it was cool, before Cafe Press, before Personalization Mall. He invented the personalized Christmas card, which your grandma also still likes. And what he did was he printed it, a normal Christmas card, and then at the bottom he said something like, "Love the Johnsons." And then he mailed it to every single Johnson in the Minneapolis phone book. People loved it, obviously. They'd never seen anything like it. They ordered it by mail, not from a website. They mailed in their order. Then next year, all those people got a card from the Johnsons, and then other families wanted it, and a business was born. To give you a little scale, today we send about 70 million catalogs across all those properties. We spend $360,000 a week in postage, just to illustrate how big that is and how complicated it is. Because today we're going to talk about email, but trying to balance a business that is still so catalog is a real challenge. And over the years, we've accumulated a database of 26 million customers. Another interesting thing about us is how the business is split. So of course you can order online, but you could also order by phone or mail. And mail is actually, you get that catalog, fill out the order form, mail in the order with a check, money order, or cash. That's still part of our business. And actually I just saw her. I told someone last night that we still take stamps. You can buy your adult diapers with postage stamps. And that's legal currency. So that's a major part of our business. We actually have a room that's locked full of stamps. So the next time you go to Target, you can try to pay with stamps. I don't know what'll happen, but it should work. So just a little question for you all. Curious how you think our business is split. So mail orders, I think, is kind of an anomaly for most of us. What % of our business do you think comes in by the mail? Filling out that order form, mailing it in. The customer puts the stamp on it. They have to pay for their own stamp. Aside from the stamps they're putting in the envelope. What % of our business do you think is mail order? Do you think it's under 10%? I mean, that seems believable, right? You think it's 10%? 20%? Higher? 30%? 40? 50? 60? Okay, it's only a third, actually, which I still think is a lot. A third of our business comes in by the mail, and the rest is evenly split, too. And the reason I tell this stat, other than that I've worked here for 3 years and I still think it's a lie, that a third of the business comes in by mail, is that that's hard. When we're trying to talk about email, the chunk of customers who are active in emails is tiny, right? Because people who are ordering by mail aren't giving us an email address. And whenever we make a marketing or product decision, we have to account for customers who still want to order by mail. So today we're going to talk about our Miles Kimball brand. It's our largest in size, revenue, number of products, any metric. And so I wanted to kind of walk you through where we've been in email. It's kind of a level set. So a couple years ago, we didn't send any customer service emails through our YesMail ESP. We just sent plain text through our order management system as an afterthought. Today we're sending a lot of email through customer service triggers. And that's been a big win for us because it improves deliverability, nice open rates, low bounce rates, good click-through rates, which has been a real blessing to the rest of the program. Maybe I am going to jump down at some point. We're sending a lot of marketing emails. You can see that has been growing over time. And we're trying to grow our trigger program. Triggers for us, things like abandoned cart, new products, price drops, your items about to run out of stock, are really great for us. They have, all the metrics are much better than the ad hoc. There's just not enough of them. And then an ad hoc is that batch and blast, right, where everyone's basically getting the same message. E-commerce, as you can see here, that total digital demand is still pretty small for us, and it's actually shrinking over time. When we take out Amazon, Walmart, Jet, from that number, our e-commerce business is shrinking. We're really being propped up by those marketplaces, which I think is interesting because a lot of retailers are nervous about having a business relationship with Amazon. For us, that relationship is really quite positive. We are shrinking our ad hoc versions. So we are sending customers more triggers and less batch and blast. And at the same time, that's paid off for us because the value of each email subscriber has been increasing. Sending less emails to more people, but each email address is worth more is a definite win. So this value of an email address we're going to use on the next couple slides when we discuss what is the value of email to other programs. So value of an email address is not hugely scientific. It's just the total number of subscribers, or it's the total revenue of email divided by the total subscribers, and you get this number that's about $10. And that's important couple slides when we talk about how email plays with other channels. And just a couple other versions of creative there. So, okay, so big old catalog company. We've got all the same channels that you guys do plus catalog. So we have this theory that there's a lot of folks who are getting catalogs and emails, but they order from the email. The email is the last click. So we're thinking our hypothesis is there's an opportunity to reduce the number of catalogs we send. Catalogs are very expensive. They're about 55 cents each for printing and postage. And email is, like 0.0002 cents. So when everyone's buying from their email, but we're still sending them a catalog once a month, it seems like there's an opportunity to reduce catalogs. So what we did was a 3-group test to see if that was possible. So we took a group that would normally have received both a catalog and an email and divided them out. One group was getting only the catalog, one group was getting only the email, and one group was getting both. And the both was a control. That's what normally would have happened. And we wanted to see if there was an improvement or if we could at least save money by cutting out some of those catalogs. So that email only column is kind of comparing email only to catalog only. So the response rate of email only is obviously a lot higher than catalog. Catalog has a very low conversion rate, email is very high. So that made sense. Catalog and email, much, much higher. There's obviously a lift in performance when we're sending both. So the first metric we look at seems very positive. So then we want to get down into the revenue and costs and see if it still holds water. Average order, though, is down. And that's really just a function, though, of catalog. Catalog always has a much higher average order than email. And I think for most of us, email probably has one of the lower average orders. So it made sense that when we're sending them only an email, their average order is 15% less than when we're sending them only a catalog. And then when we send them both, catalog and email, it goes up a little bit because the average order of the catalog props up the smaller average order of the email. Revenue is flat for exactly those same reasons with email only, but with catalog and email, revenue goes up. My boss is texting me. I can feel it in my pocket. She has a special text alert, so that means either this is going well or going very poorly. But you guys don't know if I'm lying. Only she does. So then the marketing cost goes way, way down with email only, right? Because that email is like 0.0003 cents. Catalog is like 50. So when you chop off the catalog, of course, email only looks a lot better. But there's only a slight increase when you do both catalog and email because we're already paying the 55 cents for catalog. Another 0.000 for email is nothing, so it's kind of flat. So the important number is obviously that last number where we take into account revenue and the marketing costs. And it's a huge win, right? Sending a catalog and an email doubles revenue, not even doubles revenue, it doubles the return on ad spend, as opposed to sending just the email. So what this told us was keep doing what we're doing. There's no pressing need to cut out catalog circulation. People respond better to both, which I just find really interesting because I've been there 3 years now, and I thought within 3 weeks we'd kill the catalog and I'd be the president, and it still hasn't happened. And it's crap like this that keeps me at a director level and not president. But it's for the good of the company. So then another thing that we look at in talking about email is what are the other values? So we just talked about email has a value to catalog. Well, what else is there? So when we think about email, and I think when most retailers think about email, we think about getting someone on your email file and then getting them to convert. And that's it. It's a very linear attribution process. But you have to go upstream a little bit, because in order to get people on your email file, they have to come to the site. They have to be traffic. Email just doesn't, email addresses just don't magically appear in your database through divine intervention. You have to get them somewhere. And so in our case, it's really getting more traffic to the site. So traffic to the site drives the email file. Either they're signing up through that pop-up, or they place an order and they opt in during checkout. So the thing here to think about is, how do we get more traffic? So one way we get more traffic is through our Google product listing ads. And what we did here was we realized that the product listing ads were a huge driver for new subscriptions of the email file. And we weren't accounting for that in the way we managed the Google product listing ads. We were punishing Google product listing ads. If you subscribed to email but didn't buy, we were basically punishing that PLA program, but we were rewarding the email program. So what we did here was we took that number from a few slides ago of the value of an email address, just the total email revenue divided by the total number of subscribers is about $10 for us. And we saw over whatever time period this is that the PLAs brought in about 250,000 email subscribers. So you just take that 250 times 1050, there's about $2.6 million in revenue here. Now I know that's not 100% accurate, because there's probably some attribution issues, there are some overlap issues, but directionally there's a lot of money here that we weren't thinking about. So then the PLA program on its own brought in 4.2 million. So what we wanted to do is, if you took the PLA program on its own, plus the email subscriptions, what would that change? So in this case, we said PLAs used to be worth 4.2 million. Now it's 4.2 plus 2.6. Now we're talking about 6.8 million. What do we do about this additional income? So in our case, before we were thinking about this, the Google product listing ads were running at about a 25% ad to sales ratio. And if our goal was 20, that meant things and products that were coming in at 25, we were going to start bidding down on. We'd cut them from the feed. We would do something different to not show those ads. But that's not the right thing, because those people could have came to the site and subscribed to email, and we could have risked cutting them off. So now when we add in this other revenue, we say, well, actually the ad to sales is only 16%. So that variance between 16 and 20, we don't have to cut those products. We want to keep serving those products because they have a value of email addresses. And this isn't probably 100% accurate, but just directionally it tells you that when you start taking into account your email subscriptions as a revenue value to other programs, there's an opportunity. So we ended up keeping products live that we would otherwise cut. Again, the reason being that email addresses just don't show up. You've got to get them somewhere. And in this case, PLAs were a great opportunity. So we're going upstream now. We're talking about, you collect the email, you get them to subscribe, and you get them to buy. Well, that's the perfect scenario, right? I think someone calls that the happy path. You send the email, and then they buy right away. Well, we only started thinking about abandon and browse triggers maybe a year or so ago. And that has been a big win for us, because now you have another path that you can eventually capture the sale. And in hindsight, it sounds pretty obvious that we needed a strong abandoned cart program and trigger program. But in reality, it's really done very well for us. So here's a generic example using easy math of 100,000 visitors with a 10% conversion rate. So the division is easy. If you have 100,000 visitors on your site, we would typically get about 10,000 of them to buy. The other 90 leave right away. And before a good trigger program, that 90 would disappear. So now we really focus on remarketing them with things like, if you've left this in your cart, we've added new items to a category that you've been shopping. And it really does bring in incremental orders, because in our case, these are orders we would have never messaged to the customer. And then on the flip side, another component of our abandonment program is things like the item's back in stock, or it's about to go out of stock, or the price has dropped. A lot of opportunity there, and that brings in incremental revenue for us as well. So here's how that really played out for us in real life in Q4 last year with our Miles Kimball brand. We had about 2.1 million visitors, so about 200,000 buy, the vast majority abandoned. 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we wouldn't have really communicated to these 200,000 people other than maybe their next batch and blast. But now we're giving them a very targeted, specific, just to them message. A lot of them are getting something about what's in their cart. They convert a very high conversion rate. The other segment is getting things about low price, back in stock, about to go out of stock, new items and categories you like, also brings in incremental revenue for us. And in hindsight, this doesn't sound like anything particularly interesting, but for us, when you're thinking about email, it's very linear. If you collect an email, you send an email, they buy or they don't. Now we're trying to think about all the other different purchase paths that exist. Subscriber, they buy. Okay, well, to get a subscriber, you got to get traffic. How do you get traffic? That's what entire other conferences are dedicated to. But in our case, we reevaluated our pricing strategy. We looked at having more competitive pricing as a way to get more traffic to the site, who would then collect an email and then buy, or if they didn't buy right away, they could get into the trigger program. So what we did here was we looked at our Google product listing ads. We looked at items that sold well during that time period a year before that were no longer selling well. And we looked at items that weren't selling well online, but were selling well on other channels, catalog, phone. And then we just did some manual price research to see if our prices were competitive, and they were not. When you're a catalog company, you kind of have this benefit of your competition is really the only other catalogs that landed in their mailbox the same day. But when you're online, the competition is infinite. So we've really had to think about pricing, not in that catalog sense anymore, but online. So what we did here was we picked a couple hundred items and just dropped the price to what we really thought was competitive. Oops. And what happened was the page views of those items just skyrocketed, which makes sense because in those product listing ads, if you don't have the best price, you're not showing up, period. That's how the algorithm works, right? So here was an opportunity to get way more page views. And then with the page views, we got way more email signups, and then way more customers who we could retarget through banner ads. So that was a win. Orders increased, right? People saw the product was priced right, so they bought it. And then the really cool thing here for us was that those sales were new to file customers. So whenever you drop the price, there's a risk that you're just kind of dropping the price to drop the price. People might have still bought it. In this case, they were new to file, so they would not have purchased from us otherwise. So that was a huge win. And then aside from the site traffic where people can subscribe from the pop-up, there's also just more orders. More people can subscribe through the checkout process. So that was a huge win too. And here's an example of some of the items because I don't understand people. The first item is a rice microwave cooker. You put your rice in it, put it in the microwave. The second item, this is hilarious. If your grandma like crochets a sweater, instead of the tag on the back saying Brooks Brothers or something, she can personalize it with her name, made for Ian with love from Grandma Betty. And we actually personalize that and ship it to you. The next one is generic jelly beans. Christy on my team, who I know is watching this right now, loves this item. Her team hates her because of this item. It was not competitively priced. You can buy it in Walmart at a fraction of the price. They're not Jelly Bellies. They're just generic. It's really weird. We dropped the price. We sold a shit ton. Next one is it's a holiday Christmas light necklace, I guess, and then an ice cube tray. I mean, these are commodities, right? It was very price focused, but getting people to buy them paid off in the email program. Big opportunity. Okay, so back on the topic of how do you get more traffic to the site, we did it with some banner ads. And what we did here was we tried to reactivate people who had lapsed on our email file. So folks who stopped opening or stopped clicking an email, you eventually stopped sending to, right, for deliverability issues. But we wanted to try to reactivate them. So what we did was we took this file of folks who had not opened or clicked in a while. We onboarded them with our display network, and we could find them. So first we wanted to make sure that they were out online somewhere. And then the second variable was we wanted to make sure that they were shopping elsewhere. So variable one was they're out there, so it means they're still alive, which in our case is actually a serious consideration. Two is they have it, it's a valid email address. But then the second variable is they're shopping elsewhere, because if they're just browsing Fox News, let's be real, it's not CNN, it's Fox News. If they're just browsing Fox News but not buying anything, we don't necessarily want to serve them an ad. So they were shopping other places. So we served ads to these folks. And our goal was just to get them to click or come back to our site and resubscribe, which happened, obviously, it happened. But then also people bought, which was a real surprise. Why were they not interested in our email messaging anymore, but we served them an ad elsewhere and they actually purchased? And it was a compelling offer. It was a compelling product. It was actually as seen on TV. I'm not sure if this is the right creative on the slide, but it was as seen on TV items. We sell a lot of that kind of stuff. And they loved it. So this kind of was a twofold value. It got them back into the file and or they actually purchased on the spot. So this is kind of an example of different channels playing nice with email display. So to summarize, we kind of value and critique our email program on sales, like all of us do, and also on email capture. Those are the kind of the two goals we have. So to summarize under the sales part, the big win for us over the last year was understanding the value of an email address and how that plays with other channels, like the product listing ads, like the catalog plus email test. And then moving upstream was a really, when you say it, it sounds kind of obvious, like, duh, email addresses just don't show up in your database, you have to get people to the site. Well, but then you have to get people to the site. So thinking about that was kind of eye-opening for us. Get people to the site, have the right pricing, they subscribe. That worked really well. And then email triggers, just really important because otherwise you don't talk to them in a meaningful way. On the email capture side, we're trying to think outside of the box. Instead of just giving you another pop-up box on our website with a discount, how can we just find you elsewhere? And that was the banner ads with the as seen on TV. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then price testing. Obviously people don't like to overpay, but we looked at it from let's get them back in the file, let's get them to the site. If they don't buy right now, that's okay. Let's at least get an email address. So that is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ian. That was great detail. Thank you. Anybody have any questions of Ian? I have two. If anybody, but I want to. Yep. Keep your hand up so I can see it.
Hi, Omer Naved from how exactly did you execute the display test to reactivate emails? I think it's a great idea. Did you work with a certain partner?
Yeah,
or?
What we did, and I'll give you the straight answer, is we worked with YesMail to get the file of subscribers who were no longer interested,
okay.
Not opening or clicked.
Yeah.
And we gave just the email address to our display network, which is Wyland. And they went to see who they could onboard through that email address. And then they run it through LiveRamp, Trade Desk, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure exactly how they pulled in the data of that the customers are active with other retailers. I think that's maybe just a flag or a variable in their algorithm. And then we ran the ad through Wyland, which is our normal display network.
Cool. Thank you.
A lot of what you're talking about requires a lot of integration across groups within your company, especially things like changing pricing, let alone search strategy and where they're going to start moving their own budgets. Tell us a little bit about how you're coordinating it. Clearly, their job is not to make sure you get more email addresses.
That was probably the hardest example of this entire presentation, was getting the rest of the company to believe we should drop prices on these 500 items so we might get more people to sign up for email. Because as a company in general, we don't really like our email program because everything's on sale. They're not paying 75% margin like they do in the catalog. We just did it and begged for forgiveness. And then it worked. So then we reorganized the company so that now my team actually controls pricing and it's not an issue going forward. But that was the hardest part, was getting the rest of the company to believe that we should drop prices to get people to sign up for email because we don't like email. I guess my suggestion, or how you prove that, is just pick a small subset, and which is what we did. We picked 100 items that we thought, these used to sell really well in Google product listing ads. They're not now. Google the item. I mean, you'll see we're not competitive, and now we are. It was a lot of hand-holding and back and forth, but it was totally worth it.
And to go back where we started, you and I are joking about your about the grandmas and the older aunts and Fox viewers. Do you have a demography problem that you have to solve, and is email part of solving?
Well, so when I started, I thought it was a problem, but now I embrace it. So old people, their money is just as good as everybody else. It's just don't forget about everybody else. When I started there, I thought, leave the old people to do what they do and we'll find younger customers. That's not really the answer. It's let customers behave how they want. So if people want to order by mail, cool, you can keep ordering by mail. But that's just one segment of your business. You have to focus on every segment. So the challenge for us is we've got, like 20 segments. You got all these different catalogs, all the different categories within catalogs, what channel they order through. And not to go totally off topic, what we've recently done is re-platform all of our websites. And the end goal being that what you see is going to be totally different based on who you are. So if you're a catalog customer, you're going to see a totally different product and totally different pricing. If you're a Google product listing ad customer, you're going to see different product and better pricing. And it took us a couple of years to get there, but what we are doing is understanding that not all customers are created equal. They are all valuable, but they all need to be treated differently.
Ian, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining my session today. My name again is Adam Michaud. I'm the Director of Growth with Cordial. Let me put these aside here. There we go. So we're an adaptive messaging platform powered by machine learning, and over the last 2.5 years, we've amassed over 140 customers in the mid-market and the enterprise categories. And really where we fit in the market is in organizations who are really trying to gather their first-party native streaming site behavior and mobile activity into a centralized location and be able to use that information in real time to power personalized communications, email specifically, in promotional, real-time triggers and transactional messaging, and really weave in all of that context into the personalized messaging strategy across all of your customers. And so with that in mind, I wanted to start with a little bit of a story. So going back to this particular event about 10 years ago, our two co-founders, David Baker, who you guys know as potentially a longtime author on MediaPost and thought leader over the last decade, and Jeremy Swift, our CEO, met at this event for the first time and started to share a relationship, personal and professional, that evolved over time and really set the foundation for building Cordial at the end of the day. And what's interesting about that is how we think about how that conversation evolved over time and how that set the foundation for context. And we look at how, as marketers, we treat some of our customers with batch and blast campaigns. We're not really taking into account, even if that customer's been in your file for a long time, generating site activity, open and click activity, and really giving you that intent of what they're interested in. Sometimes we're not taking that into account. So it's really like sitting down for coffee with that same person that you've had a conversation with over the last decade and saying, how many kids do you have, and what schools they go to, and what are they interested in, and what do you do for work? And it's just really jarring, right? So when we think about weaving in personalization, that's how I think about it, is that what Cordial does is help organizations humanize messaging across all their messaging strategies. And so I don't think I have to convince you that personalization is important. I'm not really here to do that with you guys today. But if you are in a state where some of those campaigns are batch and blast campaigns, and there's an opportunity for you to progress into a more optimal strategy there, then I want to give you some tips on how to bring back to the CMO some of the things that they don't know now but ought to. So the first thing is that I want to start with a confessional. I'm not a priest, but I do play one on TV sometimes. I actually did have to shotgun a wedding like 30 seconds before it started when the minister passed out. So this feels a little bit like that. But what I wanted to start with was who has either experienced or witnessed an absolute atrocious ESP migration? Wow, that's not 1/3, that was half. So thanks for sharing that. And who's got a story about like the longest ESP migration? Anyone have anything that they've witnessed or experienced that's taken more than 6 months? Too many hands. That's way too many hands. So I appreciate the volunteers there. The reality is that one of the things will happen here in an organization, 1 in 3 will switch year after year from ESP to ESP. The others will probably want to, but not because it's just too painful, right? There's too much scar tissue. The president, the CMO, the CFO says, we tried that. We're just going to end up with the same situation. Let's not go through that journey again. Every customer that's come on board to Cordial has been on board in 30 days. I think that what I would encourage you to think about is if you approach the problem from the same requirements and the same RFP, and you don't update it for what you're going to incorporate into the next 5 years of your messaging strategy, you'll probably end up switching another ESP and ending up with similar results. So think about it a little bit differently. One of the items I wanted to bring back to the CMO for you guys is the idea that you don't have to treat messaging in silos. We've seen organizations kind of talk about moving from their current ESP, trying to make that platform do all the real-time trigger behavioral messaging, sometimes transactional, and you've seen folks like Bluecore and Smarter HQ and Windsor Circle really tap into that real-time personalization and that kind of high-intent messaging strategy, because the ESPs haven't been able to support it, or it's just more agile to be able to add a third party. And sometimes we've even seen 3 platforms in the environment where you've got an ESP, a triggered platform, and even transactional. The challenge is that none of those things are really talking to each other, right? So you have data in a disparate silo, you have different platforms, contextualization and personalization and product recommendations don't necessarily cascade across all of those messages. And so I wanted to just, again, encourage you to think about Cordial as an opportunity for you to go back into that environment where you consolidate that environment, where you have that full context, you have all that personalization across all those different messages, and to be able to power that real-time messaging and also weave in some of the machine learning components. So how do you do that at scale? So I actually was really just taking feverish notes from Stephanie's presentation yesterday from EA. I don't know if you guys were burning up the paper like I was, but I was thinking about like all the adaptive template with one template, being able to pull in all the different content from the content repository. That's what we're helping our customers do. We think about this framework of modularization. And so you can still incorporate dynamic content into the message, where perhaps if somebody's browsed a purse or a specific brand, or they're male or female, or they're representing a specific cohort, that the primary hero graphic can still be personalized in a way that's maybe one-to-many. It's dynamic content. But what you're not incorporating into it is the modules that might be like on number 2 would be perhaps a product recommendation, or perhaps the item that's still in their wish list, the top priced item, and perhaps the others are, again, product recommendations or accessories that are correlating to the items that that individual has shown high intent. Maybe if they're not a mobile app user, you incorporate a banner that encourages them to download the mobile app. So there's opportunities to be able to kind of like Lego blocks, snap in these personalization modules, and Cordial can also support either tapping into an existing content repository at send time to individualize every single message, or we can provide that for you if you need a storage mechanism to be able to take the content and scale that over time. The next piece here is that I heard actually a couple conversations here yesterday where some of the brands talked about over the next 8 to 12 months, we're preparing for machine learning. We're collecting all of the data. We need the data. Google is not using all of the data. They've got all the data. They know everything about me. They know my wife doesn't respond to our Google Home, and when I do, it responds to me because she's saying please and thank you, so it doesn't understand her commands. But at the end of the day, the machine learning, Google has applied a really excellent white paper by this gentleman, Stephen Scott, on machine learning technologies and how they've applied that to the advertising model, where they have anonymous browsers and they just need to put ads in front of them and maximize the reward while minimizing the regret. And we've applied a similar approach to test promotion. So the idea is you don't need to boil the ocean, you don't need to collect all of the data to be able to start with machine learning. You can start with no information, just maximize what you're putting in front of those organizations. And the idea is that learning technology should not be daunting to you. It shouldn't be something that you're fearful of it taking over your job. It's something that's just going to help you do the monkey work faster by passing it off to the machines and letting it do it for you, and helping you move very, very quickly, iterate, test and learn and fail and optimize very, very rapidly over time. So the next piece I wanted to share with you is this idea that you can move from a lifecycle strategy to a more programmatic approach. So govx.com is a customer of ours. That's a membership-based retail site. They just had Military Appreciation Month and had a huge, huge month. And they support first responders. And basically, they've got a gated membership-based retail site. And it's really challenging for them to activate a customer because they actually have to physically the customer has to physically go get their credentials and verify that they are a first responder. So you can imagine the hassles. I know you guys are dealing with a lot of hassles for customer activation. Try and get somebody out of their chair to go get some document that they have to scan. So when they came to us, they had these really complex journeys built out, and they'd invested 2+ years in these journeys. And one of the things that they really struggled with is that these journeys were static in time, and they were over the course of the first 60 days, because they knew if they couldn't capture that customer and activate them in that first 60 days, that they were going to lose that customer, 100% fall off ultimately if they don't get that first purchase within 60 days. So what happened here is they wanted to be able to test and optimize each message and each component within those messages over the course of that first 60 days. And if they did that with the existing technology, they would have had to actually take like message number 30 on day 30 and wait for 30 days for all those customers to get through that journey before they really started to be able to test and optimize and start to validate the results from that. So what we've incorporated here is machine learning on every single message and every single component of that message, including all the subject lines, all the body copy, including social influence, testimonials, including top pinned items, all kinds of really cool creative opportunities to be able to rapidly test and optimize and learn results in a matter of days rather than having to wait for weeks or months to come to very negligible conclusions on all of their testing and optimization there. So again, I'll go back to the beginning where if you feel like personalization and incorporating that in a more scalable way is an objective that you have for 2017, or you need to build the foundation for 2018, think about your use cases differently, think about your evaluation process differently, update your RFP with more modern use cases that you might be thinking about over the next 5 years instead of how do I reach parity, because the reality is if you're switching to reach parity, you might as well just stay and do what you're doing and just keep on doing that for the next couple of years. So Cordial has incorporated a proof of concept approach that's kind of built into the name, Be Cordial, is that we wanted to have an opportunity to ensure that our customers were finding excellent partnerships with their vendors, Cordial specifically, and being able to try that technology gives both sides an opportunity to make sure that they can get their data into our platform easily, that their IT teams really like the platform, that it's working in real time as expected, and that can incorporate their messaging strategies as they would without having to get locked into a terrible marriage potentially. So if you have any ideas, or if you'd like to chat with us later after the show about some of the ways in which you can update your RFP or talk about what a proof of concept would look like, we've got extensive documentation of what we take our customers through and additional use cases you could add to your RFP, and we can send that document to you guys after the show. So finally, here's some of our information if you'd like to find us on cordial.com and follow us on Twitter. You can also follow the hashtag BeCordial. There's enough hate in the world. So I think we should kind of think about this in terms of how you want to treat your customers with those relationships as be cordial in everything that you do. We've got this color blue, we've got gray, and then we've got pink in various sizes out in the back right outside. So grab one for yourself, and if you don't find your size or color, we can ship one to you. Yeah, so again, I encourage you to be different. I encourage you to think differently and take action this year, whether it's with Cordial or doing something incredible within your organization, and think about Cordial. We're different intentionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And thanks, Cordial, for our coffee.